Okay, well, good morning, good afternoon. Hello, everyone. This is Jean Kropper from Paper and Pixel in Sydney, Australia. And I'm interviewing today Dr. Yogesh Raut, and he is in India. So welcome this morning.
Thank you for having me. It is a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Jean.
Today, we're talking about how do you make innovation happen? Innovation is a process, not just something that happens by luck. When a business develops a great new product or a service, innovation is something that can be developed in a structured, systematic way. Come and join us on why innovation is so important, what happens when companies don't innovate, and how you can integrate this 5 steps of innovation into a business to keep it moving forward. He will share his knowledge and experience, and feel free to ask questions at the end of the interview. Okay, Dr. Yogesh is the Innovation Officer of Accenture Software, a global software company. They design data systems to solve large, complex problems. Their projects include registering people in India for vaccinations, for data systems to banks, and he has been involved with planning and supervising, making innovation happen within the business. Okay. All right. Can you tell me why innovation or design thinking is needed in business?
Very valid and important question, Jean. When we talk about creativity, innovation, I think it is an integral part of everybody's life, irrespective of whether you are a student or a professional or a housewife. Innovation, creativity.
Yes.
When we talk about innovation and creativity, usually we believe that there is some divine intervention that has to happen, that God will send me some message and that innovation or creativity will happen. That is something that a layman believes, which is a myth, which unfortunately is not correct. So design thinking is one of the ways, one of the approaches to make sure people are innovative, people are creative, and they stay relevant, they stay competitive.
Yes, it's important to stay relevant and competitive. And also, I think when people think it is sort of divine or lucky, it doesn't give credit to the actual work that creative people need to do. It's sort of making it outside them rather than hard work and a process. So yeah, where did the concept of design thinking start? Where did that come from?
Design thinking has been there for a long time. Yes, the term that we talk about, design thinking, is something around 40 years old, but the principles or the mindset that we have with respect to design thinking, it has been there for a long time. It has been as old as human beings. When people stayed in caves and they thought, how should we hunt more animals? How can we hunt quickly? So on and so forth. When human beings started thinking about that, they were using design thinking. When they were drawing on the caves, because they wanted to communicate something to future generations, to people in other part of the world, when they're drawing on the caves, they were using one of the principles of design thinking: show, don't tell. Okay, show, don't tell is one of the principles of design thinking. So it has been there for a long time. Yes, in the last couple of decades, what has happened is all these wonderful principles that humanity has been using for thousands of years have been put together in a very formal, structured way, and we have given it a name which is called as design thinking. But when you look at what exactly is all about, when you go into the depth, you will understand these are basic common sense principles that have been put together, and all of us unknowingly have been using some of the principles in our lives at all given point of time. But here, the people who have contributed to the knowledge of design thinking, David Kelly, Tom Kelly, and amazing organizations like IDEO, they were the ones who really bought that name design thinking, and they kind of were the first ones to have bought the name design thinking together. But there are a lot of people who have contributed to the evolution of this concept, and this concept continues to evolve as we speak today. So it is not at all regimentalized. It continues to evolve which is something that I really like about this approach. It is not fixed, it is not finalized. It is something that it is going to evolve, and all of us can contribute in that evolution of the approach.
Mm, mm. And design thinking, is that sort of the term used for the process of thinking things through, and innovation is sort of the general
Absolutely.
general term? Is that correct?
Yeah. So when we talk about innovation, there are multiple approaches. All the approaches are right, I believe. Not that this approach is right, that approach is wrong. But I believe design thinking is an approach that can be used by anyone and everyone. School going kids to adults to senior citizens, anyone and everyone can use design thinking. The applications of design thinking can be where you want it. If you want it to use it for your office work, you can use it. If you want to use it for your life, to have a more meaningful, enriching life, you can use it for your personal life as well. And I think that is something that all of us have realized in the COVID world in the last couple of years. That at the end of the day, do I feel enriching? Do I feel happy? And that is, I think, very, very important at the end of the day. So not necessarily you apply design thinking only to your work, but you can also apply it to your personal life. And I think it will do wonders irrespective of where you apply. In terms of professional life, whether you're speaking to the client, whether you're creating a new product for the client, whether you are selling an insurance policy to the client, where whatever it may be, whatever the scenario may be, you can use design thinking as an approach. So it is not limited to marketing folks or only to the IT world, but anywhere and everywhere where a customer is involved, a consumer is involved. This can. When we talk about definition of design thinking, it talks about a human-centered approach to problem solving. So it is a human-centered approach. So we say in design thinking, we start with people. Who are the people? What is the experience of the people? How can we provide people better experience? So the starting point when it comes to design thinking, the initiation is people.
Okay, gotcha.
Empathizing with those people.
And you mentioned that the term design thinking sort of began about 40 years ago. Who were the names again of the people that were involved in that?
IDEO is the name of the organization which really brought limelight to the term design thinking.
Okay.
Tom Kelly, David Kelly, people who were working with IDEO then, they were the ones who really talked about it, and they were the ones who could bring limelight. But over a period of time, and even before them, a lot of people contributed to the knowledge of design thinking. And over a period of time, all these principles, all these common sense principles have come together, and now it is kind of in a very structured way. And a lot of credit goes to the D school, the design school as we call it, the D school in Potsdam, Germany. They were the ones who have really created that structure, and they have started teaching to students. Students enroll there at the D school, and they learn and they take it to the rest of the world. So I think a lot of credit goes to the D school as well to really formalize this and bring it to the entire world.
And where is the D school? Where is that?
D school is located at Potsdam, Germany, and the university is located there, and they are doing wonderful work, not only in terms of formalizing, but spreading the knowledge of design thinking throughout the world.
Got you. Yeah. Okay. Right. Can you explain about the steps that are in the design thinking process? Because there are really some quite specific steps that you go through. And I understand as a creative myself that ideas don't just appear. It's when you're working through really quite a specific process, ideas come up as part of the work of that process. So can you talk about that, the steps?
Absolutely. So the first thing that all of us need to realize is that ideas just don't come randomly. There is a method to that madness. There is a process that is involved. If you follow that process, if you do it religiously, ideas will come. Not that you have to wait for a divine intervention to happen, or God will bless me and I will get an idea. That is not really going to happen, because in our professional life especially, we need ideas at regular interval of time, and we cannot wait for that divine day to happen. Okay, we cannot really do that.
Yes, I mean, as an artist, you can't just work when you're inspired. You have to keep working and making things happen.
You have to keep working. We have deadlines, especially in the IT world and everywhere else. So how do we make sure that we and our team can come up with ideas in a given time span in a fixed way and not waiting for some pure luck to happen that I was lucky and I got the idea. So what is more important in design thinking is the mindset. And next comes the methods or the tools, what you're talking about. Mindset to be human centered, mindset to be creative and playful, mindset for collaboration. I think these are the mindsets which are very, very important. That is the starting point of design thinking. Mindset to be human centered. So saying that the starting point in this entire process is people. Who are the people? What is the experience of the people? And empathizing with them.
So you're
Getting into the
usually with
shoes of the
design thinking,
customer.
you're trying to solve a problem. So you need to think about the people who are experience that problem and what their needs are. Is that
what their needs are? Absolutely. So if you could bring up that image, the steps involved. So the starting point is understand who are the people, who are the different stakeholders involved by empathizing. Okay, so empathize is the first phase, and empathizing with the clients, consumers is the first step. Once you've empathized, you've understood what is happening in their world, what are the issues, what are the pain points, then you define the problem. So you say out of all these 100 pain points, what is that one question or one problem which needs immediate attention? So you define the problem statement, you define the correct problem statement.
Have you had problems in business where the people in the company decided to solve a particular problem, but then found out later that it wasn't actually the problem the customer felt they had?
Absolutely, absolutely. We do that day in and day out, because what people might tell are the symptoms. They do not tell us the root cause. So when a problem statement is given to us, we go deep into it. We understand what is the problem behind the problem.
Yeah.
Say for example, you go to a doctor and you say, I'm having fever. So the doctor should not treat fever. The doctor should try to understand what is the reason for the fever and treat that. So unfortunately, that is not happening. So in design thinking, we put in a lot of efforts to make sure that we have defined the problem correctly. We don't want to solve the wrong problem. We want to solve the right problem. In the past, in the traditional approach, many times we have solved the problem and then we came to know that the question itself was wrong. Design thinking, we have to make sure that we are solving the right problem. Is the problem correctly framed or not? It is not what I feel, what the CEO of the company feels, but what exactly is the problem. And at times, what we start with and what we end with in terms of a problem statement is very different. So we have to make sure that we define the problem correctly. And then we say, this is the problem to be solved this time. This is the pain point that has to be solved this time. So that's the next step.
That makes sense. Yep. Okay. Yep. So really, you've got to pay attention to the people and who those people are, what their capabilities are, their age, their cultural outlook. I would guess, education, all sorts of things that would affect their perception of the problem or their needs in how it could be solved, their capabilities, I suppose, in how it could be solved. You can't ask them to do something that they're not capable of or not comfortable with. Yeah. Okay. So empathize, define the problem.
And then comes ideate. Ideate is generation of ideas. You have to generate ideas. When the problem statement is ready, you generate ideas. In design thinking, there are a lot of methods that are available in each of these phases, not just ideate or define. So how do you empathize? Say, for example, the first step is empathize. So how do you empathize? There are methods in design thinking. Maybe sometime later we can have a longer discussion and I can take you through methods for each of these phases. So each phase, each of these 5 phases that you see, this has come from the D school. The D school has devised this, formalized this approach. So I'm taking up this one, which is kind of accepted throughout the world. And all organizations have changed slightly bit. They have changed, made small modifications to this approach depending upon the type of work that they do. And obviously Accenture has also done that. But the basic design thinking approach remains the same, whichever part of the world you go. Coming back to this approach, in each phase, there are different methods. So empathize is the first phase. There are methods that you can learn and use. Then comes defining the problem statement. Next is ideation. Once the problem statement is ready, you have to have ideas, how to generate ideas, how to do it with a team. Collaboration is an integral part of design thinking. So it is always teamwork. It is teamwork coming together across different time zones, maybe different cultures. And that is something that I see at my organization, because we are present throughout the world. So we have to collaborate people from different time zones, different cultures, so on and so forth. In ideation, when it comes to ideation, we say go for quantity.
Yes.
We say go for quantity. Because the quality idea comes from quantity of ideas. So how to generate quantity of ideas? Yes, there are different methods that I talked about. Once the ideas are ready, what these ideas are one single statements or couple of sentences or one paragraph. It is very important to make these ideas tangible, and that is nothing but prototyping. What is prototyping? Making the ideas tangible. How to make the ideas tangible? There are different methods again within prototyping.
Yep. So prototyping, making ideas tangible. So actually making the rough first draft of what a possible solution might be, or a possible product, or a possible service. Is that correct?
Absolutely, absolutely. And we use the principle that I mentioned a couple of minutes back. Show, don't tell. Show the idea, don't tell the idea. So you have to show the idea. So how do you show? By means of a prototype. And I think the most common form of prototype that all of us know is the 3D modeling. You know, we are, especially engineering students, they prepare a model, which is a replica, a smaller version of what it will be in the real world. When we do prototyping, we do multiple iterations of the prototyping, and we show it to the customer and ask for feedback. Asking for feedback is called as test or testing in design thinking. So we prepare a prototype, we show it to the stakeholders and say, what do you think? What are the changes required? Is this okay? Does this look okay? Based upon this feedback, we go back, we iterate again. So we take the prototyping iteration to iteration level 2. We again go back, we show, we come back again. So when we talk about prototyping and testing, it is a very iterative and repetitive process. As you start moving forward, your prototype will become more and more refined. And at a stage, you will reach very soon, wherein the customers say, the stakeholders say, wow, this is fantastic. No more improvements are required. And that is when you go to the last phase. You know, we call it commercialization or go live. And we say, everything is ready, let's go into the real world. This is your internal world. This is something that you do internally. But after prototyping and testing is done, then you move into the real world with the customers, and you launch your product, you launch your service, you launch your experience. One important thing to remember is these are not the steps. Step 1, step 2, step 3, and the end. It does not happen that way. It is a very flexible approach. From any phase you can go back to any phase and any number of times. Say, for example, your ideating.
So it isn't actually a linear process necessarily. You go along and you might get to prototype and realize you need more information, or you need to go back and check something, or you're thinking maybe this isn't quite the right solution. So it's going to loop back around a few times. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. It's a non-linear process. That is something that all of us should remember.
Yes, that makes sense. Yeah. Okay. And with testing, that's when you're taking it out into the world, your product, your service, your software. Yeah.
Testing is you show your prototype to the stakeholder and say, this is what I'm thinking. What do you think? What are your thoughts on it? And when you take that feedback, it is nothing but testing. And when prototyping and testing happens multiple times, see, we will not get it right the first time. We'll have to do it 2 times, 3 times, 30 times. I really don't know. None of us knows when we start this. But once we do that n number of iterations, a stage will come when the stakeholders say, wow, this is fantastic. We think this is the best, and no more improvements can be done. That is when we say, now let's launch the product. If it is a product, if it is a mobile phone, you launch the mobile. If it is a restaurant, you launch the restaurant. If it is a software that can help people to book hotels in a much better way by comparing different hotels, different sites, that is when we go.
Now, one thing you said when we were talking before the interview that I thought was interesting was that when you develop a first prototype, you don't actually want it to be super clean and polished. Well, I would have thought you want to make it as good as you can. And you said some very interesting things about that, that if it is too polished, you won't get feedback because people will see it as a finished thing. So talk a bit more about wanting a prototype that's actually still a bit rough.
When we talk about prototyping, you don't really need to keep it polished and super polished, in fact, because once you do that, people will not be, the stakeholders will not be, would be happy to give a feedback. They might see, wow, this is done, this is polished, how can I give feedback? So usually when we do prototyping, it is low fidelity prototyping, which means you take some paper, you take some straws and you prepare it. No, you don't really spend a lot of time, lot of effort. Prototyping, the time spent should be less, the money spent should be less, effort spent to be less. That is very, very important. In fact, the first iteration is always quick, dirty, and fast. And at times, what we do is we just take post-its and we draw on it and we say, what do you think? And it's as simple as that. When we talk about prototyping, not that I need some software, this, that. If I have some Legos, I take Legos, I prepare it, I say, what do you think about it? You know, and the best and the most easiest is have a piece of paper, usually the post-its, and I pick up pen and I draw and I say, this is how it will look. Yes. What do you think? And then says, no. Okay. Then what I do is I say, okay, iteration 2. I remove this. I say, okay, let me improvise. Okay, yeah. Next. So what happens is very quick, very fast, I evolve the product. Yeah. Not that I say, oh, wait for 6 months, I will come back next time. I say, give me 15 minutes. I immediately draw it. In 15 minutes, I go back. So the time to the market is very fast. We want to reach to the market as soon as possible before the competitors. How do we do that? If it takes 6 months, 1 year, oh, let me prepare a prototype, wait for 6 months. No, that's not going to happen. Prototypes should take 15, 20 minutes. In Accenture, we play with Legos. We have Lego boxes. We sit down, we have a paper, we have sketch pen, we draw it, we use the Legos, and we say in 15, 20 minutes, this is what we have. Does this look good? What do you think? And they say, no, this, because once you show them, then people are able to give their inputs on that. When you tell, they might not really be able to give their input. So show, don't tell is the rule for prototype.
Okay, so this is sort of the opposite of an inventor off in a shed working away for years trying to polish a product, because I can see that in now we can't afford to wait that long to bring a product to market, because the market will change and the needs may change. And also that all that time that inventor might be working alone, they're not getting the feedback they need from the market to finalize the product. And the faster they get real-time feedback, then the faster they could get to market. Is that a correct?
Absolutely, perception? Absolutely. So yeah, so to put it into very crude terms, scientists have to be aligned with the real world. What is happening outside the real world? Yep. And they cannot really sit down on their own inside their rooms and I say, oh, I think this will work. That will not work. What the scientist might think might be totally wrong or totally right as well, but it's pure luck. Unfortunately, we cannot go by luck. Okay, if we are lucky, we will survive, otherwise we'll die. No, that does not happen in real world. So the best thing is stay connected with the human beings who are involved. So that's the reason I said design thinking is a human-centered approach to problem solving. So you have to start with humans. Who are the people involved? And very happy to share that the largest vaccination drive in the world happened in India. The starting point of that vaccination was not very far from where I'm sitting. It was produced at a place couple of minutes from my home. And the work of making 130 crore Indians go through the vaccination, the government of India worked upon this, and Accenture was there to help create something that was first of its kind in the history of mankind. 130 crore people to be vaccinated never happened in the history of mankind. And the government of India could pull it off. And I think a big work behind that was done by Accenture in making sure that all the people, such a vast country, coming together, making sure that they are vaccinated in a seamless way. And I think that really speaks volume about the quality of work that the government has done.
Yes, I mean, it's quite astounding to think of the size of that problem and just the logistics that would need to go into making that happen, both the technical side and the practical side of, yeah, that's quite mind-boggling to consider.
It's mind-boggling that the more you think about it, the more you fall into the love of the approach. And why it succeeded was because it was a human-centered approach. We started with people. Who are the people in India? People who are illiterate, people who do not have mobile phones, maybe the smartphones, people who do not understand English, they know their local language, people who have not gone to school, people who are 70 years old, who cannot read, write, they've not gone to school. You know, the problems in India are multifold when it comes to logistics as compared to any other country. Say, for example, every year one Australia is born in India. That is how it is. So the complexity, the huge geographical nature of the country, the diversity of the people. And I think it was only possible because the starting point was people. Who are the people for whom this vaccination drive is happening? What are the challenges that they might face? And that is because we were able to do that. I think it was a wonderful thing. And, over a period of time, it is going to be the greatest work done by humanity, maybe a wonderful case study to look at.
Yes. So I mean, I think once you solve a problem like that, you have a whole process of thinking and developing logistics that could be applied to many things, and also to help other countries solve similar problems. And
absolutely.
Unfortunately, we're going to have more viruses, and we're going to have other health issues that will need to be solved in different ways. And I think it's really quite, I mean, it's certainly magical is the wrong word, but there's something really wonderful about solving complex problems, the satisfaction in that goes beyond just business.
Absolutely. And when it comes to complex problem, the design thinking approach is the best according to me. Simple problems, design thinking not required. What is 1 + 1? Design thinking not required. Where is required is complex problem, and complex problems are going to be their integral part of our professional lives, personal lives. So humble request to everyone listening here, try this design thinking approach. You will see it really works. It really works. Use it. And once you use it, you will realize how important it is, how good it is, how wonderful it is. And anyone and everyone can apply, not limited only to professionals. Anyone and everyone can use it, irrespective of age, educational qualification, geographical location. It is universal. Anyone and everyone can use it. People who will use it will benefit immensely. Organizations that will use it will immense benefitly. That is, there are hundreds and thousands of examples that are available. Maybe next time when we connect, Jean, maybe we'll talk about it. We are at the top of the hour, but it was, I think, wonderful to speak to you, the lovely audience here, and share whatever little I know.
Thank you for sharing your knowledge. And I think there's there's so many areas that this can be used in. And in my own creative work, in just in developing marketing promotions, there are problems to solve that this can apply to. An artist doing a painting can think about something, and developing a product in industrial design, it can be used. And so thank you very much for sharing with us today. All right.
Thank you, Jean. It was wonderful to speak to you. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you, everyone, and have a great day ahead.